Why do some women get better with age, like fine wine, or do some exercises, lose weight, achieve a certain look and health, while others can't seem to do it? In fact, there are only two ways of thinking. I can't or I can. And the answer is much simpler than you think. And which idea always works? The one you stand on. And the secret of success is not in the coach, not in the cream, not in the diet, but in the decision you have made for yourself from which you act. What always annoyed me most in the world was when some of my girlfriends, and we were still under 30 at the time, would say, "Oh, it's my genetics," or "These are my Venus rings, it's genetics," or "I got wrinkles right away, it's genetics," or "My hair started turning gray, it's genetics," or "I just can't lose weight, at some point I gained weight for some reason, it's genetics." But what about the fact that you eat shawarma twice a day for lunch and dinner, and you don't even bother to try to figure out your diet, you know? That's it. Here in this photo, I'm with my father at age 27. And I look like my father. And I would look at him and think, like, the answer to the question, this genetics didn't suit me. Because at 27, I looked really awful, at least from my own point of view. Now I'm 36, almost 10 years have passed. I look significantly better. But that doesn't mean this is exactly the result I want to achieve. I mean, I'm working on improving myself in the mirror, because if I was given the role of a woman in this life, then it would be great if I could really excel in that role. In my opinion, a woman can't truly succeed if she looks at herself in the mirror and doesn't like something she sees, because I remember that feeling when I used to leave the house. And if you imagine that I have RAM in my head like a computer, sometimes up to 80% of that memory was taken up by thoughts about how I looked, how my clothes fit, maybe if there was a crease somewhere. And here someone is looking at me very closely. What if they notice something? What if they see this? What if they see that? It's awful. Why? Because that's just how the rules of the game turned out. A man really only needs to be a little better looking than a monkey. But along with that plus, he has a ton of minuses, you know? And a woman is something that makes you want to look, that evokes a beautifully dressed woman with a good figure, with a well-groomed quality face, no matter her age. Because for the most part, beauty is shaped by how well you take care of yourself, not even by natural features. Because a lot of really beautiful girls, after the age of 25, start to deteriorate so quickly that you look at them and think, honestly, if I had known it would be like this, I would not have cried in 9th grade about my chest not developing on time. I would have just been like, yeah, it's all good, I won the long game in this race. But that's not really okay, because a woman still inspires admiration. She lifts the mood. When a beautifully dressed woman enters a room, both men and women find it interesting to look at her. And this has nothing to do with provoking any kind of sexual desire or anything like that. It's simply an aesthetic thing. And if a girl or a woman worries that she's losing that aesthetic, that in itself proves that deep down, no matter how emancipated she is or how much she says it doesn't matter to anyone, that's exactly why she worries, because she understands that at the most basic level. The truth is, in this role, and it's just a role, because in business you're not really a woman. There, you're a businessman. But in every other aspect of life, you're kind of a woman. And even in business, you can act like a woman or you can act like a guy, sitting back with your arms akimbo, talking tough with the men just to be in the loop and to make sure they listen to you. So, what's the main idea here? What am I trying to convey in this video? Look, when it comes to any survival idea, by survival I mean those that contribute to improvement, that promote well-being, that lead to something better. In other words, that help ensure a successful life with ongoing improvements. For any such idea, that would be positive for you. Every person, when they start thinking like, I would like it to be this way, immediately gets hit with 333 ideas, or even more, about why it won't work, even for something positive. Why won't this work? The time has already passed, it won't work now, or something else like that. And it's so interesting. If you ask people, I recently did some experiments just with my friends. I started asking, I said, what good things do you want? And I said, please tell me your goals in different areas of your life. And so when it comes to something good, some positive circumstance or state of affairs in a certain area, whether it's business, family, or physical condition, there's usually just one. A person knows this idea very well. It's more of an idea than something verbal. They can describe it at length or very briefly, but they don't really have stability in their viewpoint about it. I ask, why don't you have this? And then it starts. And here begins a thought process that could go on forever. We start going over things. Why not? Where have we seen situations where it didn't work out, where it was impossible, where it was already about age or something else? And in the same example, there are a huge number of women, no matter how much they try to sort themselves out, they want to look good. They want to like themselves. And it's not about wanting to please other people or depending on their opinions. No, damn it, to like yourself so you can go outside. And not think about how you look, whether people like you or not, whether you feel comfortable or uncomfortable. To forget about yourself entirely because you're satisfied with yourself, because you know for sure that everything's okay with you. Yes, there are a billion beautiful women, and I'm one of them. Cool, right? I look good, I feel good, and I don't have this fixation on myself, because being fixated on yourself really scares people off, including men. Especially for single women, especially for older single women. An older woman who is fixated on herself and is embarrassed and shy about everything in the world is a mission impossible for a man. A man just sees that and goes, ooh, goodbye. No matter how good things might be, I just let it go. Because no one wants to live with a person who, due to their own wild insecurity, takes any sideways glance, what they perceive as a sideways glance, as aggression. And it can't be any other way, because nobody wants to be criticized or devalued. Nobody likes that. Everyone wants validation, everyone wants to be praised, to have their strengths recognized. But if a person gets stuck in their own head and starts seeing people everywhere who, in their mind, see something wrong with them, when in reality it's just them seeing something wrong in themselves. This can be either mental or physical, but it's much easier to resolve the physical side of things than the mental one. And that gives a lot of confidence. I'm sure there are women watching me right now who have made some breakthroughs with themselves, for example, getting back in shape after having children and looking even better than before. Or women who have achieved significant improvements with their face, for instance, or have improved their health in such a way that everything together looks better and they feel better too. Well, you understand what I'm talking about, right? I mean, when you do this, you realize that, of course, yes, you can fix absolutely anything you want. But this interesting mechanism of decision-making, when you think you can do something, for every idea of I can do something, there will always be a reason why you can't do it, and a million different options. First of all, it's an uneven fight. You only have one idea of what you want to do. For example, let's say someone looks at themselves in the mirror and thinks, I want to fix this, create this kind of image. That's one idea, a complete concept, which you could describe in detail, but still, it's just one idea. But the reasons why it won't work, there are just an endless number of them, so the fight is unequal. So there's only one idea, but a million reasons why. No. But there's a very interesting idea that you might find reasonable, and that could help you just as it once helped me. I realize that no matter what explanation there is for the lack of results, it can't be the truth. Because on this planet, there are people who achieve results in absolutely everything. Yes, they're not the majority, precisely because not everyone is able to discipline themselves to change their perspective, to literally take it and physically turn it from I can't to I can. Because if it were true, you see, if it were true that everything ages, falls apart, degrades, and so on, then there would be no victories, no successful projects. There would be no personal victories, no situations where you did something good that helped you and those around you. None of that would exist if I can't were true. The truth is, I can, while I can't is just a convenient excuse not to try. Of course, all of this is based on certain things, mainly on negative past experiences. But if a person starts to control their thinking, for example, let's say you look at your business and think, okay, I'm going to do this, and this is the result I want to achieve. And then all sorts of ideas come rushing in about why it might not work out. But you know, that just can't be true. It just absolutely cannot be true. That's all there is to it. The truth is that absolutely anyone can achieve absolutely anything. In this case, I can achieve whatever I want. Because here's the thing. You might say, oh, that's just poetry, motivational speeches. But there's actually a practical side to it. So an employee comes to me, I'm a businessman, right? I have another type of business related to real estate. And employees are always coming to me. They're like, you know, realtors. I can't make the sale. I've done everything I could. I've called all the clients. Basically, this month I won't be able to meet the target. I'm really upset. I have a mortgage and blah, blah, blah. And I listen to all this and say, why are you telling me this? Well, I'm just giving you an update that I've done everything I could. I say, so basically you've made peace with the fact that you won't be bringing home the money you wanted this month. And he's like, well, yeah, I guess so. I say, but you haven't made peace with me. You haven't made peace with me. If you can't deliver results, someone else will. But among all the salespeople, there are others who are getting those results. Then you all have the same clients and you all have the same properties. So a person comes in and justifies the lack of results because it's easier for them in the moment. Because in the moment, it's easier for them to say that everyone else is to blame, that nothing depends on them because they've done everything they could. But they absolutely don't see that in the long run, they're cutting off their own ability to achieve anything in this field. Because this is the kind of person who then starts to burn out in sales, then starts jumping from job to job, and they're already almost 50 years old, and that's really not the age when you should be searching. By that point, you should already know exactly what you're doing, because there's not much time left. And it's the same story when women give up on their appearance, on maintaining their health, even on fighting gray hair. It's interesting, isn't it? Oh, it's genetics. Did you know there are peptides for gray hair? I just went around asking people in my circle, and I didn't find a single woman who seriously knew that there are preventive peptides for gray hair. And if someone had known about it in advance, they would have started using those peptides. And for example, they could have fought against their so-called terrible genetics, you know? And I'm not talking about plastic surgery. Usually things like this don't cost a fortune. I have a great video on my channel about home skincare. It completely eliminates the need for injections, threads, and with regular use could save you from a facelift at 50. Because the way my face has changed, and you saw the photo at the very beginning, that's a big transformation. But there hasn't been a single plastic surgery, and there are no fillers here. The last time I had fillers was when I was about 27 or 28. Actually, at about that age, by the way, in the photo, there were fillers, but it didn't help at all. My face stayed the same as it was before. The quality of my skin was just as unclear as before. It didn't really improve. My cheekbones were enhanced and so on. Back then, I was also very skinny. And people give up before even trying to figure out the issue. Because it's like, oh, she didn't succeed. Those people didn't succeed. And everyone around me starts giving up after 40. So what? Well, I guess that's just how it is. Then you just sit there. But the thing is, it actually ruins your life. Just look, a person who relies on excuses for why things aren't working out thinks that living this way is easier. But the problem is that their whole world, all their thinking, all their perspectives on the areas of life they closely interact with are all negative. And if you simply ask this person whether they're happy or not, they'll say no. If you generally ask him, are you a capable person? How do you evaluate yourself as capable? Well, from the point of view of you planned something and achieved it, but he doesn't see himself as capable. And he realizes that life affects him, but he doesn't really affect life. And that's actually very scary because this principle applies to everything in the world. And these people who start to desperately lose hope for a better life after 35 on average, if we're talking about the Russian-speaking world, that's frightening because when you go to Europe, there, after 40, serious results are expected from a person. Because up to 40, he could be searching for himself and then he still has about 40 more years of active life ahead, you see. But this very profound idea of standing firmly on excuses and deliberately choosing between I can and I absolutely cannot, I cannot because it's a truly great and convenient excuse not to even try, actually just completely reassures you that you definitely won't bring sufficient money home, that you certainly won't genuinely like what you see reflected in the mirror, that you ultimately won't live a wonderfully long, truly happy and incredibly fulfilling life in a healthy and vibrant body. That maybe you won't have good family relationships because the same principle applies in the family. You look at your husband, for example, and you have two ideas. Overall, he's a good person, he's great, he does this and that, but right now, in this moment, he's acting this way, which is bad, and so on and so forth. And if you fixate on the idea that he's flawed, awkward, or doing something wrong, and you start talking to him or trying to fix it from that perspective, the situation only gets much worse. First of all, this argument never ends. Secondly, you end up like a broken record, going over the same track again and again, and every time the argument is about the same thing. And this person has no motivation to become better. But if you approach a person from the perspective that they are capable and good, and you start a conversation with them by encouraging their sense of I can, you say, how can you say you can't? Of course you can. You've always been able to do it. Let's remember times when you managed, here you could, and here you could too. Yeah, really, why am I acting like this? And what about with children? It's exactly the same with children. But in order to start acting this way with others, you need to start applying it to yourself first. Life will have its crap, there will be challenges, there will be situations, sometimes extremely unpleasant and very inconvenient for living. But if you put the emphasis That is, if your strategy is based on the idea that you always have the ability to do something about what doesn't suit you, you can always do something about it. For you, that's the truth. For you, there are no dead ends. You are never in despair. Yes, it will require you to learn some information, take some actions, make some effort, but you will see improvements, you will be moving forward. It's a terrible kind of despair when a person after the age of 35 just gets stuck. They just get stuck, just waiting for it all to end. But that's awful. That's why the mechanics are very simple. There is the idea of I can, and for this idea, every person, it's not just you, there's nothing wrong with you in particular. I feel the same way. A million reasons flood my mind as to why it's impossible to do. The lazy way is to agree that it really is impossible to do, and then just sit and explain. Like I had a friend who would say, oh, that's from my father. She'd say, he was like that. And this varicose vein on my legs, that's from my mother. And these curly sideburns sticking out in all directions, that's from my grandmother. I think, well, damn, you're like Frankenstein and you're not planning to do anything about it. Well, I mean, if you like it, I guess I can put up with it. It's not like I'm going to baptize children with you. But can you imagine what kind of attitude that is? And at the same time, this is a very insecure person who can't be happy, who lashes out at people, who growls at people, who is constantly dissatisfied, who can't help themselves and therefore can't help anyone else. That is, every person in their circle who tries to change something about themselves or improve their life in any way will be attacked by this person, because this person is in complete despair. They don't want to see situations or people getting better. This woman doesn't want to see her friends get cosmetic procedures and start looking younger. They will mock them for it as much as they can, because, like she once said to me when I got my eyebrows done, she was like, oh, tattoo my eyebrows so my gaze looks more severe. 2 years went by and finally she fixed her colorless eyebrows and started to look beautiful. I said, wow, that's great. It really suits you. Keep doing it. You see what I mean? That's why you shouldn't listen to comments from people like that. And a good solution for anyone in any activity you do is to make the decision, I can do this. Because you see, you might say, I've done a lot of things in my life. I don't believe in my actions. I don't believe that this will give a 100% result. I don't believe that it's like a sniper rifle that always hits the target. I don't believe it. And do you know why? Because when a person acts from a desperate state, when they're completely sure that nothing will work out, or they're in a state of maybe it will work, maybe it won't, maybe it will, maybe it won't, and they start to act, it won't work out for them because failure is planned from the very beginning. But when they start to act from the state of, I can do it and I will succeed, I am doing this, then they have an almost 100% guarantee of success. Just as with the idea of I can't, there's a 100% guarantee that you won't achieve anything. With the idea of I can, there's a 100% guarantee that you will achieve something. On my channel, there are a huge number of videos about cosmetics, about losing weight, about getting your body in shape in the simplest ways, so you don't have to kill yourself at the gym. This is especially suitable for those who already have age-related issues with joints, who can't afford to do any serious labor-intensive workouts. Browse the channel, please check out these videos. I'll leave 2 videos here about the cosmetics that did this to my face after a couple of years of use. I saw the first obvious results after about 6 months, so just get the whole set and use it for half a year. Anyway, watch the videos and you'll figure it out. But don't get discouraged. And I assure you, you'll find a lot of interesting things that you'll recommend to me, and we'll be exchanging these disagreements about how things are on this channel, and we'll be making things better. Whether it's about our face, our health, or our figure, because a woman has a huge role. Just by her presence, she lifts everyone's spirits. Women, men, the elderly, and children. Besides being a wonderful wife and mother, besides being a brilliant person, besides being a businesswoman, as I am, along with everything else in my family, and also a trendsetter, and doing a whole bunch of other activities. In every one of these moments, I am a woman, and I never forget that. And it's an amazing role if you truly feel good in this role and first and foremost receive your own validation and admiration. So, ladies, I wish you success. We have a huge amount of work ahead of us, but this work is enjoyable. Subscribe to my channel. Please write in the comments about the topics that concern you as girls, as women. You can describe your situations if you're not shy. You don't have to subscribe. I'll try to release videos like this once a week if you find them useful. Bye-bye.